17th Sunday in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the first book of Kings. The Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night. God said, "Ask something of me, and I will give it to you." Solomon answered, "O Lord, my God, you have made me your servant, king to succeed my father David. But I am a mere youth, not knowing at all how to act. I serve you in the midst of the people whom you have chosen, a people so vast that it cannot be numbered or counted. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding heart to judge your people and to distinguish right from wrong. For who is able to govern this vast people of yours?" The Lord was pleased that Solomon made this request. So God said to him, "Because you have asked for this, not for a long life for yourself, nor for riches, nor for the life of your enemies, but for understanding so that you may know what is right, I do as you requested. I give you a heart so wise and understanding that there has never been anyone like you up to now, and after you there will come no one to equal you." The word of the Lord.
Let your kindness comfort me, according to your promise to your servants. Let your compassion come to me, that I may live, for your law is my delight. Lord, I love your commands. Lord, I love your commands. For I love your commands more than gold, however fine. For in all your precepts I go forward, every false way I hate. Lord, I love your commands. Lord, I love your commands. Wonderful are your decrees, therefore I observe them. The revelation of your word sheds light, giving understanding to the simple. Lord, I love your commands. Lord, I love your commands.
A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Brothers and sisters, we know that all things work for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. For those he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, so that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called, and those he called, he also justified, and those he justified, he also glorified. The word of the Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure buried in a field, which a person finds and hides again, and out of joy goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant searching for fine pearls. When he finds a pearl of great price, he goes and sells all that he has and buys it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net thrown into the sea, which collects fish of every kind. When it is full, they haul it ashore, and sit down to put what is good into buckets. What is bad they throw away. Thus it will be at the end of the age. The angels will go out and separate the wicked from the righteous, and throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. Do you understand all these things? They answered, Yes. And he replied, Then every scribe who has been instructed in the kingdom of heaven is like the head of a household, who brings from his storeroom both the new and the old. The Gospel of the Lord.
The 17th week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from 1 Kings 3, verse 5 and 7 to 12. In this passage we hear about how Solomon goes to a shrine and asks for the one gift that will allow him to be a great ruler, which is wisdom. Instead of asking for riches, long life, victory over his enemies, he asks for that thing which will truly make him a good ruler. Now, because he asked for wisdom, God gives him all those things besides. Solomon is known as the wisest of kings. That was his reputation. In fact, remember the story of how the Queen of Sheba comes from the south just to listen to Solomon and ask him questions. Now, wisdom in those days was not simply being very intelligent. It also carried the connotation of knowing how things work, including things of nature. So we would consider it a botanist, a biologist, things like that, but even a magician, that he would know some of the white magic and possibly even dark magic to be able to control reality. While Solomon was one of the wisest kings, he also made terrible mistakes. Remember, towards the end of his reign, he sacrifices a child, he builds temples for his pagan wives to worship, and he himself worships there. So we see that even though a person is given a gift, that person doesn't necessarily always use it. That's our responsibility. Remember the gospel parable of the talents that are given to the 3 workers. If God gives us a talent, we're expected to use it well. The gospel is from Matthew 13, 44 to 52, a set of 3 comparisons of the kingdom of heaven. Now, the kingdom of heaven is not a time or a place. It's when God's law and God's love are lived to the fullest. It's like a treasure that one finds and buries again, sells everything he has and buys the land. It's like a fine pearl. One sells everything he has and buys it. So these two have the same idea, the idea that the kingdom of heaven is something that is so good that we should be willing to sacrifice everything to obtain it. The third one, the kingdom of heaven, is like a net thrown into the sea. When it's pulled in, it has good fish and bad fish. The fisherman will separate it. What's bad, throw out. What's good, either use himself or take to the market. In this one, it's the story of how the good and bad will coexist until the final judgment. Much like the idea of the field sown with good seed, but upon which an enemy puts bad seed, the weeds and the good wheat grow together. The owner of the land says to his slaves, don't try to pull up the weeds. You'll just destroy the crop too. And then at the very end, Matthew has Jesus saying, every scribe who is instructed in the kingdom of heaven is like the head of a household who brings from his storeroom both the new and the old. It's very interesting, the idea that we have to look at the old and respect it and use it, but also be willing to dream to the future, be willing to try new things. That we are not so caught up in one idea, one concept of God, that we become blind to every other possibility. A lot of people in our church today are either on the left or the right, and they think that's the only answer. We have to be willing to look at all parts and see the truth where it lies. The second reading is from Romans 8:28-30. This speaks about predestination. We have to be careful with that word because some people think that predestination means that things have to happen. And it's not that. Predestination means that we are invited. And if we're invited, God will be willing to justify us. Remember, justification means that we are at peace with God. And that happens when we have faith in the love that He showed us on the cross, in the redemption that He offered us. And we will also be glorified if we cooperate with His grace. It's not that these things have to happen, but we've received an invitation. And who has gotten this invitation? According to Scripture, all of our names are written in the book of life before the foundation of the world. Before the world existed, we were all called by name. That's why God created us. Of course, it's an invitation. We can turn it down if we want by sin, but why would we want to? And may God bless us.